Art Chat is made possible by the support of the Artistic Harmonies Association. Create your next aha experience with us. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art Chat. I'm your host, Linda Riesenberg Fisler. And with me is my co-founder of Artistic Harmonies Association. And this is John Anderson. Hi, John. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good. So John and I had a conversation, and I had promised the listeners a number of times that we would get on here and talk about the new association that we're going to launch. And we are going to talk about that in depth today. So before we jump into that, though, I want to have you introduce yourself to my listeners. They're used to me. They know I've been painting for over 25 years, and I've interviewed a bunch of people and talked about art and the keys of making great art and all that kind of stuff. So they're very used to me. So John, tell us about yourself. What you're actually going to be heading up the business side of our endeavor,
That's right.
adventure, whichever one we want to call that. And yeah, so tell us about your background so that they know what you've been doing and why you're going to head up our business side.
First of all, I just realized this morning I have an art partner. I've never had an art partner before.
There you go.
So I'm very excited about the fact that after a lot of conversation and introduction from a friend, Linda and I decided to work together. And my expertise has been over 40 years of business consulting. I've consulted over 30 different companies, and I've been done things, everything from business startups to early growth periods within the business cycle. I've taken a private company public. You name it, if it's been involved in business, I've done it, including being an entrepreneur and starting several businesses of my own. So that's my very basic background. But what I hope to bring to the table and to bring to Linda is an opportunity to share my business experience with artists in whatever vein they might need some advice on. So we're developing that process, and I hope to be a valuable asset to our organization. So
you already have been. So it's been wonderful. Usually, like I said, folks know I worked at Procter & Gamble for 26 years. And so having John, it's been a really wonderful, experience, I guess is a good word, because John can start speaking business and I somewhat understand what he's talking about versus, just talking business and it going over our heads. So when John gets real into business, I can pull him back and say, okay, well, wait a minute, what does that mean? And how does that apply to the art process? So I think it's a really good balance from the standpoint of John could be as business as he wants to be with business language. And he's got an artist here who can translate that or help him translate that to a creative. And so that's one of the, I think, Artistic Harmonies Association's strengths. And by the way, you may hear John and I say AHA, which is Artistic Harmonies Association, just the letters, because it's a long, it's a lot to say.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. So I want to start off before we get into some of the questions that we decided that we wanted to try to answer today. And again, out to the listeners, if you have questions, please go to artisticharmoniesassociation.com and you can Google it, Artistic Harmonies Association, Google it, click on that website, and there's a contact us page there. So if you have questions during this chat or even after this chat, or you want to know more about the association, please go to the contact us page on our website and type us the question and we'll get back to you with an answer. And while you're there, check out the blogs because we started blogging. But Artistic Harmonies has always been a title or a business entity, if you want to call it that loosely, over the years, because when I started showing art in Middletown, Ohio, where I lived at the time, I called our first Friday events Artistic Harmonies. And I would ask musicians to come in and play while people were walking around showing art in this one building that we had down, and when we were trying to renovate, renovate the downtown area. So Artistic Harmonies was hanging outside on a banner. And so this has been with me for years. I have wanted to do something called Artistic Harmonies, but it's probably taken me 20 years to figure out what that is. So just a bit of history there. So let's dive into the first question, and I'm gonna ask John this question, and then we'll probably it'll just be a free-flowing conversation because John and I talk every day, or well, at least text every day, if not phone calls or weekly Zoom meetings where we have talked about what we really want this organization to be. So why did we start AHA, and why do we feel it's necessary? So that's our first question. So you go first, John.
You want me to answer or give you my answer, right?
Yeah, I want you to give you your, right. And then I'll chime in with mine.
Well, it came about, interestingly enough, is that I have always had a love for art. I'm not an artist per se. Most people would call me an aesthete, and that's somebody that appreciates or admires art, creativity, and the artist. Mm-hmm. And so I've always wanted to make that part of my experience. As a matter of fact, I have co-written a book with a friend of mine, Sally Branson, and we wrote a book about an East Tennessee artist. So that's about the extent of my touch with being an aesthete, other than the fact that I enjoy immensely going to museums back from 1965, and I'm not trying to date myself, but I lived in Connecticut, and I used to go into New York and visit the museums, and I've always loved that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so why did we start Artistic Harmonies? I found along the way, and was fortunate enough, even though briefly, and when I say briefly, Linda and I have actually only been working together since, Linda, about February. March of this year? Yeah. And we found each other through a mutual friend and began to talk. And I said, boy, tell me some of the situations that an artist goes through in not only learning to paint or become a literary creative or any of the aspects of art. Tell me what they go through. And it seems to always come back to, well, a lot of them are good in their trade or want to learn more about their trade, but they don't really know how to make money off of being an artist. So we kept talking, and we said, hey, there's a fit here. And with my experience, I think that I can combine that with Linda, who, by the way, and I want to thank her for this, she, not knowing anything about painting, she is walking me through a particular painting of how she gets started, how she conceives the idea, and then builds upon that to prep for the actual painting experience. So very appreciative of that, because it gives me more insight into what the creative goes through.
Right.
So we started AHA for, and again, this is an in-process start. We're starting with a nonprofit organization. We will eventually add to that with other entities, but it is to compile a group of lessons, if you will. I don't really like that word, because I think more creatives bring things to us than we do to them, but we help them organize. But the purpose of that is that, telling you that, is that this is a process. It's going to take some time. We're hopeful that we will have what we call the hard launch, which is kind of like the grand opening in January of 2022. So you have the ability, if you'll stay in touch with us and ask questions and be involved with us, you'll see how this process works and how we came about to making AHA a working organization. So
right,
we started it for that reason, is to build upon the process.
Yeah, so many times when I talk to artists, or artists contact me and ask how they can find people of like mind, collectors, followers, whatever that term may be, You know, I get asked all the time, how do we do that? I spend all this time on social media and, you know, I don't get very much. Nobody buys my art, etc. Okay. So one of the things that John and I talked about early on when we started talking was we need to find some way. And I think what's missing is finding that way to provide opportunities for the artists to grow in technical mastery and also in business skills. So on both sides of the coins, we'll be providing opportunities for that. And hopefully, as we gain more steam and as we launch our hard launch in January, you know, this is something we will be trying to build bridges to collectors and corporate America and all of these other groups. And there's a learning process on both sides of that coin. So yeah, we're sitting over here painting like crazy and putting out art and shouting out into the social media void, if you will, because I think it's becoming more a void than anything. Everybody posts stuff, but no one really engages. And it's kind of the same way with Art Chat. You know, this goes out to the universe, but I never really hear from you, the listeners. So again, please, if you have any questions, please go to the contact us page on our website, artisticharmonies.com or association.com, and contact us, because we want to reach out and get you guys involved with what we're doing. And we're at the soft launch stage. So this is the time for you to start saying, hey, here's my questions. Here's what I'm running into. Tell us your story. We want to hear it. But we want to be able to provide opportunities that help you grow so that you can build your business, your art business, and live that dream that you've been dreaming all your life to do. Do you have anything to add to that, John?
Yeah, primarily is I think what you're going to find out, and again, you'll hear me talking from the business side, is that there's a lot of people that say, oh, I want to be in business for myself. I'm going to start a business. And they go into it with that attitude. And I like to focus and concentrate in the beginning on why are you doing this? People are more interested in, and I think if you're ever in conversation with somebody, they say, well, how did you get into this business? Or why are you doing this? And so we want to make sure that the creative knows there are true reasons for it. There's a lot of reasons. And then we want to build the value of that so that individual can communicate and say, well, I'm doing this for these reasons. And they're not always money. Now, money's the big part of it because that's what sustains you. And we're certainly not going to neglect that. But the reasons why you do it, the strategies that you use to get there, and how you put your organization together is very, very important. And that's why Linda and I are telling you too, that if you'll hang with us, you'll see AHA just come together as a process. And that will help you in whatever decision that you make as a creative in terms of where you want to take your art business.
Yeah, so structurally, just so folks know a little bit about us, like, so we're launching as a nonprofit, and I'm not going to go into every little bit of detail, but we will have a board of directors, and we have been soliciting some artists and some business folks actually on both sides to join our board and to help advise us as well. So, but there is nothing better than having listeners and other artists coming in and saying, this is what I need, for us to go back to that board and say, look, you know, just a loose statistical analysis of all the results and answers and questions that have been sent to us. This is probably the direction we should go in to help everyone that is contacting us. And so, you know, I just wanted to let them know that it's not just you and I making the decisions. We will have a board of advisors consisting of business people and art people, so that we can start talking about, you know, well, what's the best way to handle this type of situation. And another reason why I think it was necessary for Artistic Harmonies to start up was because I think that's the part that's missing. And like I said, I've been an artist for 20 some years, 25 years, probably closer to 30 now, if I actually did the math, but that's why John's here. John does math. Anyway, so, you know, I think it's really necessary. I hear a lot of frustration. There only seems to be, quote unquote, one path. and that is a path that is tried and true, and there's nothing wrong with it if you feel successful doing it that way. But I think there's a lot of folks out there that don't feel successful going the normal route of, going to a gallery and being represented by a gallery. Nothing wrong with that. Galleries are beautiful. I love visiting them. But not everyone is fortunate enough to get into a gallery. So, is there another way that you can present your art? And there is. It's this matter of, like John said, setting up your business, figuring out your why. Why are you doing this? And, and it's okay if part of that why is I want to sell my art. There's nothing wrong with that. But that it along with that goes the technical skills for art that we need to do to get it to that point where someone will see value in it. And that is, John is always talking to me a little bit about values and the value of art, the values that we put into our art, the value that someone sees when they look at that art, and where that falls along the line of, I don't know, cherishing it. Is that a good word, John?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I think too, in that vein is that part of the value that we create for the creative person or the artist is that we want to extend that out to people like me that are aesthetes but not artistic, and they're looking for things to purchase that they feel has value within their own self. And so we're going to talk about, hey, how do I price a piece? How do I make that piece more valuable as time goes on? How do I regulate and find new buyers? Because I got to tell you, I think there, and I'm sure y'all have experienced this, you put a piece of art on, and dreaded to say Facebook, but you put a piece
Social
of art
media
on Facebook and you get 27 likes, but nobody comes back. Very few people come back and say, well, I like this enough to buy it, so instant message me and let's talk. Well, you need to know the value of your work effort, what's it for, why you did it, and understand why that person might want to buy that piece of art. And that's, so we hope to extend that and broaden that scope to bring you more buyers where you deal one-on-one with them. So, but you got to know the value of your artwork. And I think there's so much that's undervalued out there. And then there's that threat as, oh, I need another 15 tubes of paint, so I better sell this one for less money. No, there's a way to maintain value, and we'll be focusing on that as well.
Right. So I think the ears picked up when you said undervalued art. So,
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a number of times where I've gotten into situations where it's like, well, yeah, I do need those 15 tubes of paint and I have to go buy canvases, and okay, how about this for the price of it? Because I know that will cover the materials that I need to buy.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and we aren't saying that, social media won't help you sell. Because some folks only sell through social media. I had a couple sales this past year that came from social media, and some may sell very quickly and some, and steadily, and that's great. But that's not everybody's motive, if you will, for doing that. So there are a lot of other ways that would provide probably a more steady income if these other bridges are built, if you will. So with that,
I think too, we're going to bring some innovative processes in that's going to actually give you that open window to sell your art. And I'll give you a good example of how when I talk about value as an artist, if you paint a picture, and I've heard this come from Linda, I'll say, well, Linda, is that for sale? And she'll say, well, I'm thinking about it. And I say, okay, well, what about this piece? And she goes, oh no, I'd never sell that. Well, see, that means that it's more valuable to her to keep and to own and to reflect on the job that she did on that painting than to have it go to a collector.
right.
But at the same time, if you can show that value and explain that value to a buyer, then your price is going to go up.
Yeah.
And so we hope to bring that innovative platform where your art is worth more than you think it is, and is proven by the sales process. So
Yeah, it's always funny is one of my instructors a long time ago when I first started painting, he made that comment to me, like, you know, would you sell this one? And I said, oh no. And he goes, Linda, you always will sell it. It just has to be the right price. So I think he was going along the same lines you were. If somebody came over and said, I had something in my private collection that I don't want to sell. And he said, I'll give you $1 million for it. It'd be, oh yeah, okay, here you go.
yeah,
So that's my price. That's my price on that painting. But, you know, I don't think I'll ever have that happen. But if I do, hey, cool for me. So, but hopefully we'll get you there, that we'll get the listeners and artists that are listening there. And, you know, we'll get their prices up, and not just because it isn't I mean, it has to be warranted where we sell our paintings. We just can't arbitrarily say, I don't want to sell this until I can get $5,000 for it. That's not the way that equation works. It's there's more to it than that. And if you want to know more to it, then you know where to go. Our website, sign up for our newsletters, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. A little self-promotion is good there.
Yeah, that's right. We're not going to give away all the secrets.
There's another short story that many of you have probably heard, and that was the woman that walked up to the artist that was showing their work at an event, and she said, how much for that piece there? And he was turning and he said 400, but all she heard was the 4. She said, I'll take it. And she started to write out her check, and she handed it to the artist, and the check was for 4,000. He said, oh, wait a minute, I meant 400. Or I said 400. She took the check, tore it up, and said, well, you know what the value of your work is then, and walked off. Yeah. So again, it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder and the collector, and you need to let that develop and increase.
Right. So I think we did really well talking about why we think we're out there and why we think it's necessary for our organization to be here. And just one quick addition to some of the things that you'll find on the website in the future, because like John said, this is a work in progress, but we wanted to get out there and start talking to all of you because we want, like I said, to hear from you. But the big thing is one thing that we want to also explore, and think that our board of directors will also say, yeah, this is something we need to do, is have a collector's corner where we bring collectors into our organization and talk to them about, again, the value of art, how it gets created, how long we work at this to make something eye-catching and touching of the soul, if you will, so that they understand more of the process. So think of it kind of as like a collector's education corner, if you will, where we start talking to them about the aesthetics of art and why they should purchase this, and how they build a connection with with artists and authors and anybody, musicians, and that kind of. The weird thing is when somebody falls in love with your art and they start to follow you and all of that, that kind of happens automatically underneath the true collector of your work. So we'll be delving into trying to build that up on the collector side as well, just so that you know that we're not just doing this from one side. We're looking at all sides of the equation and trying to figure out how we can build that bridge to make sure that things happen. So with that conversation, let's talk a little bit about, and we kind of have been talking about this, but I want to state it, our vision statement, which is, we advise creative individuals throughout their artistic journey to achieve, new levels of success through our innovative processes or procedures. You could tell my P&G mind took over there for processes. Procedures. So yeah, it does. Just kind of click into that P&G thing when you start talking about mission and vision statements. But so you've been hearing, a lot of that in our vision, and John and I are very excited about the vision that we see for Artistic Harmonies. So we could probably talk a whole hour just on on that, but
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah, but I mean, understand that when we start talking about this, John, I wrote some words when I read that question out. I just wrote some real quick words, and you probably will end up adding to that. And that is, you know, we're looking at coaching and mentoring and positive constructive feedback and things that are actionable for the artist to do, as well as the collector on both sides, you know, what they need to do. I could probably say I've had probably let me think. I probably have 3 people that have bought my work that I would consider collectors. In other words, they have come back a second time, bought a second or a third piece or fourth piece of art, or commissioned me to paint something for them. So those are, I mean, the rest of them were like one-time buyers. So that's a totally different thing that happened than the ones that keep coming back and buying my work and seeing the value of that work. Like I said, 2 or 3 of those I would actually call collectors. Other ones are just random purchasers, if you will. And there's a big difference between a collector and someone who just randomly purchases art. So those were a few words that I wanted to put to the mission statement, saying this is how we would try to make that vision statement a reality, if you will. I don't know if you want to comment a little bit on our vision statement.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important in this too, and again, Linda and I talk a lot, but we discussed this, and I said, my experience over 30 years in terms of like going to galleries and looking at artwork is I'm always amazed that the number of people that walk in and they just walk straight through. They stop, pause maybe 5 or 10 seconds, and then they go to the next painting. And I've kind of felt over the years, that's because they enjoy art, they love art, but they don't really know what to look for. So Linda, in several of her courses, is going to talk to the basic structure or technical aspects of art that are necessary for the artist. But we want to translate that to the collector. You know, why did they like a piece? What is special about it? What do they see in it that somebody else may not? So we want to create that procedure to bring that forward to somebody who would be a collector. And again, that will increase the numbers and the value of the art. So I would add that to that, and that goes back to your P&G days. So we will get the procedure.
Yeah, so you can see we're trying, you know, we're actually talking a lot more, if you will, data-based or scientifically based procedures, processes that, is it processes? I can't remember. Anyway, you know, that will be tried and true and helpful to keep everyone moving forward. I mean, like if I go back to like 10, 12 years ago, I was handed a trade survey that was handed out, and it probably no longer is useful in the fact that the numbers are probably outdated at this point, especially with COVID in the last 2 years. I think there's a lot more people who are thinking about launching their own businesses, not just artists, but other folks who, you know, had to go through lockdown and needed to find something else to do. They're starting their own businesses and things like that, where, you know, artists can come back and you know, start really delving into their technical ability and stuff like that. And it's, so that trade journal came out, or the trade survey synopsis, whatever you want to call it, came out and said there was 1.2 million artists out there. And if I'm right, if I remember correctly, that's only in the United States, because this was just a North American, United States, Canada survey. So 1.2 million artists out there. That's a lot of people. And there's a percentage of that 1.2 million that consider themselves professionals. There's some that consider themselves amateur. There's some that just consider themselves hobbyists, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. But I guarantee you, through the 3 different areas that I just mentioned, people want to sell their art. And if so part of that basis that we're talking about doing here, will hopefully give everybody that little bit of edge to find those collectors and those random art purchasers so that they can price their work appropriately. And of course, pricing your work appropriately between hobbyist and professional is a totally, two different price points, if you will. So keep that in mind. You got a lot of, even though you don't think you have a lot of competition out there, you have a lot of competition out there. And then I want you to think about people like, and I know you're going to cringe when I say this, listeners, but don't cringe. Listen to me, okay? Then there's people like Bob Ross, Thomas Kincaid, Jackson Pollock, Claude Monet. I know you didn't cringe at that one, but that's a totally different one. But Andy Warhol. I'm trying to think of someone that's very, very like known, but Bob Ross and Thomas Kincaid, like every time I say that to an artist, I hear groans, and he's not an artist and all of these different kind of things. And I'll tell you, I've seen some Thomas Kincaid plein air paintings and they are gorgeous. Okay. They're nothing like his painter of light. He went out and painted plein air. So he had the same discipline that we all have. Bob Ross didn't get to teaching his technique because he didn't spend hours developing it and days and months and years. So I always find it interesting that everybody gets all upset and wants to downplay someone who figured out the business equation to make himself known or herself known and took it that extra step that they became a nationally known artist. And all of a sudden that became wrong. It's like, oh, we don't want to be like them because we're artists and we have to suffer. No, we don't have to suffer. Okay. And that's part of, we're not going to make everybody a Thomas Kincaid. We're not going to make everybody a Bob Ross. What you are is up to you. What you decide what it is that you want to do. And I'm not promising that you're going to be on a PBS station show or anything like that, but I always say this to my student, do you not like them because they were successful, or do you not like their type of art? And then I come back and say, technically tell me what's wrong with their art. And it's very hard for them to do.
And I think one thing to add to that too, is that part of the process, and this is jumping over to the business side, is building that brand. And Thomas Kincaid knew what his why was. Ross knew what his why was. And they used that to build their own personal brand. Mm-hmm. And from the business aspect, that's what we're going to help you do. That will continue to add value to your name, your brand, your work, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So that's a good point, Linda. I think that, again, once you discover what that why is, you're not going to care what anybody else says as long as you're successful at it. There'll always be critics. There'll always be people that'll pan your work. But there is a technical side, which Linda knows very well, that can help you break through in some areas. And so we're looking forward to that and sharing that to people that are members in the association and want to see art, a resurgence in art. And I think it's time. I really do.
I do too. So let's talk a little bit about when we're doing really good on time. So let's step ahead and talk about where we are now. And we're in our soft launch. So every Monday and Thursday, we launch a new blog post out there. So we're recording this on Thursday. So John's blog about why you want to be an entrepreneur is out on the website right now. And I'm putting out a series of past master studies, which will probably engage into a more popular artist masters of today analysis of some work, or I may go totally different. But anyway, on Monday is kind of an art-based post, and on Thursday is a business-based post. So make sure you go out there. So we're at our soft launch. We're trying to we've filed our paperwork, right? Right. So we're semi-official, right?
Right. No, we're official.
Oh, we're official? Okay, good.
Yeah, we're an official North Carolina.
We just had an amendment. That's all. Yeah. So North Carolina nonprofit. So we are official. So let's say that. And we'll be doing the blog post and possibly doing some like teasers in the blog post too of what will be coming. I've got a ton of editing that I need to do on some videos. Some of it art, some of it lessons that will be available if you join our organization. And let's see, John has a ton of recording to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
which we need to get together and do probably would be a better way of doing that. So
there's a lot of compliance issues that we have to jump through hoops. And again, that's all part of the process. And that's why we're looking at this as a soft launch. There's a lot of preliminary stuff that needs to be done. We're still in the process of building upon our why we're doing this. So
right.
It's like I said, if you'll ask questions, any questions, okay. I just had one the other day said, how do you start a nonprofit? So any questions that you have for Linda and I, jump over to the website, ask the questions, and we'll get back to you just as soon as possible. And that's pretty quick, actually. So
It is pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then after the soft launch, we naturally have our, if you want, hard launch, or whatever you want to call it, when we're targeting for January 2022. And that is probably the time that we'll start looking for memberships and subscriptions. And, we haven't really, because we are focusing so intently on the why, which folks that we have solicited to join our board have said, you guys are doing great. You're trying to really figure this out. They're very, very impressed with, what level of detail that John and I are going through to really set the roots of this business. And a nonprofit business is still a business, and make sure that we meet what your expectations are. So we're really pulling apart that why and getting into some philosophical conversations and what happens when types of situations too. So in January, at this point, we didn't feel like we had enough to offer to start taking subscriptions, but we certainly had enough to offer to give to you out there. And that's like soft launch versus hard launch. And
that's another reason too, I think that we're asking you if you will tell us what things that you need. You may discover or tell us something that we haven't talked about yet.
mm-hmm.
But as this progresses and goes through the different areas of art, we're going to start with visual artists. We're going to go to literary, performing arts, and we intend on over time being able to develop a full-scale creative platform to which everyone can benefit from. So tell us what you need, and we will be available to you. You essentially become an e-partner to us in the beginning, and you'll be able to offer us some things that we can expand on. We would greatly appreciate that.
Yes, we would. We've actually had a couple people who are friends of mine, artists who are a friend of mine that are very comfortable in talking with me, that have started doing that actually. One person's name is Jamie, and the other one's name is Jenny. And it's been a really wonderful experience to talk with them. But it also reinforces a lot of the things that John and I have been talking about. So we aren't doing this in a silo. We go out and we'll talk to artists and people that I know, and John will talk to business people that he knows, and they're like, yeah, I think you're on the right track. Or they tell us a story and it's like, bingo, that's what we're talking about. So again, and then they're really surprised when I say, okay, we're adding this to the list of things that we need to look at, and we're going to figure this out and, make it happen. And they're surprised that we actually will do that. Not everything will make a list, or you may hear back, this is already on our list, and we're working at it now to try and figure out how we're going to approach this. So, and naturally everybody wants everything now, but this isn't something that we want to turn around in a flippant, non-helpful, maybe even unconstructive answer to you. What we want to do is provide that positive, constructive feedback in a way that you learn and or grow from it. Not that it's, just, well, you need to get out there and show. Yeah, well, we all know that. Okay. But how do I get people to come? I mean, you can rent the space, you can do everything that you think that you're doing right, and then nobody shows up, or 3 or 4, or the friends that you have show up because they're your friends, and there's no selling that goes on or something like that. So how frustrating is that? So, and then you say, well, I did that once, so I'm not going to do it again because it wasn't successful. Well, maybe there's something in there that you missed that we can tell you about, just as an example.
And to jump over on the business side of that too, part of the process in any business is to do a large amount of research. What's your competition doing? Why are they doing that? And Linda and I are involved in the research every day. Actually telling you what we just told you is part of the research process.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us what your needs are. We'll compare that with what the business model is, and we'll see how we can strengthen the business model by going through that. So research is just something that it's done in not only business planning, but marketing planning. Now that your why is established, it's how do we get there? What strategies do we build? And that's all part of that research process, is to determine where your journey's going to take you and how you're going to get there. So again, does it sound complicated? Yes. Is it complicated? Yes. But it's just as complicated as trying to figure out on your own, how do I sell my paintings? Very difficult. So
well, and
go
it's
ahead.
I was going to say, and it's just as complicated as your art journey. Okay. Just on your art side, not even looking at the business side. There's a lot of, so there's a very let's go here without naming names, if you will. There's a very popular Facebook group called Older Artists out there, which I've been scanning because it's great market research. But I've been scanning that, and there are a lot of questions, and there are a lot of things of a lot of places where some of the artists will post their work and they're very intimidated. There's a lot of great work in this group, and there's a lot of folks who are willing to learn and want to learn in this group. And it's the one thing you learn over time is never really ask another artist for constructive feedback. Okay, because what you'll tend to have happen is them telling you what they would do versus you doing what it is you want to do. So two totally different things. Now, when I teach, for example, I teach technical skills. So I give them a reason why technically what they did was not exactly right. Okay. So then we talk about how to fix it. But I leave that fix up to my student, because I can tell them and teach them my technique, but then they're painting like me. They're not painting in their own voice. So I like to let them struggle. I tell them struggle is part of it. And it's the fun part of it. What happens if I do this? What if I do this? And a lot of that what if is the same on the business side. So I think a lot of us are very strong in developing our technical side. I can paint and look at this lovely, gorgeous painting, and it'll call you from across the room because there's a strong value pattern, et cetera, et cetera. And then we get to the business side and we forget to start asking, what if, how do I, why am I, so, where should I?
Should I pivot? Should I do this? If this is not working, better to fail early than to prolong the agony. So there's a lot of elements on both sides of the board here that we're looking at. And that's why, another reason why Linda and I got together. So,
right. So, yeah, so it's just kind of, and I'm not saying that we won't have, I'm very excited because of an email that I just got from Mandy that I forwarded to you, John.
yeah.
And that'll answer a lot of our technical sides of this. And for people who, want to attain a master level, but are running into roadblocks in the quote unquote traditional way that becoming a master comes. John's laughing. John's got the smile on his face because he knows I'm trying to be good. So,
Oh,
yeah, so it's very, very hard to attain that master level in the current way that is out there. And I'm not really sure I would call that traditional. And, you know, and all the research that we've been doing about masters, it's really kind of interesting the way that this happens. So we're looking at a very technically based way. So you have to master the techniques. You have to understand why you put that paintbrush, that brush stroke there, or that color there, or that value there. Or so it's very much building your skill to the point where you can call yourself and graduate, if you will, as a master. And we just got a yes, we're going to collaborate with you from I'm not going to go into it yet because this is future. This is what we're going to do, and where our partner, our collaborating partner in the future, isn't quite ready yet for us to jump in and get involved, but she is open to that, and it will be, I think, a very popular way to get yourself to the position where that value statement that we were talking about earlier and your work are in the same place. And if you have the business capability and you have the artistic capability, then you've got it. You can work your business side as easily, if you want to call it easy, as your art side. So again, that's where we're trying to get you to, I guess is the best way to say it, at Artistic Harmonies Association. So did I do that right without stepping on any toes, John?
absolutely. You were very diplomatic in your approach there.
Maybe I should run for Congress, huh?
Oh gosh, no.
No.
Let's stay out of politics.
Yeah, let's do.
You know, I'll give you an example of something, and I'm going to bounce around here a little bit. You might think as an artist, and in reference to what Linda said, that your competition is 1.2 million artists that are out there. From a business standpoint and a marketing standpoint, I say, whoop, wait a minute. What about all the artists that are deceased? What about the art that's being traded? So you have to be very thorough in your approach when you're doing your research as to whom you're going to sell to, how you're going to target them, how you're going to get their attention. Some people just want an explanation. You know, they look at a piece of art and they say, boy, I really love this. I know this because I do this every day. And I really love this piece of artwork, or I like this artist's style, but it would help if that artist can give me some feedback in terms of, well, this is why I did this. This is why these colors are in here. Gives my appreciation of that piece a lot more strength. So again, I know we've talked about a lot of things here today, and we'll continue to do this, and we'll have these meetings, and we'll look out for your feedback too. Very, very interested in that.
Yes, very much. So yeah, we've been chatting
just about an hour.
Just about an hour, yeah. So, but I do want to talk about building bridges, because we've talked about that a couple times in here, and yeah, it's a pretty cool catchphrase. You know, we're going to build bridges. Okay, where are you building them to? You know, what's going on with that? You know, so when I say building bridges, what I mean by that is, you know, I envision a cooperation or a collaboration of artists and collectors and even corporate America. And I'm not saying we're going to start there right out of the gate, because this is a building process. We're going to be, you know, you don't just plop a bridge in place. You have to build it brick by brick and cement by cement pour, or however, rebarb and all that other stuff that goes into it physically. But, you know, I really think that part of our innovative procedures or processes is going to come from us reaching out and bringing in whatever side of the equation ends up showing up from a, if you want to start talking about a statistical or a scientific way to approach it. You know, we can't just work with artists and collectors without some piece of corporate America being in there and understanding the art's value. And yes, there's the foundation of all the different foundations of the National Endowment of Arts, and all of that is there as well. But, and there is some corporate support there, but I think there's even some things that they're missing out on that maybe we can bring to them to make things better. And that's just like, pull that one out of the top of my head. But I do think there is a miss there, and maybe we help plug that dike with some of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, you're right on point there. And I'll give you a good example is the banking business.
Mm-hmm.
The banking business does a lot of things with the artistic community that they don't necessarily publicize, and they don't come out until you go, wow, I didn't know that. And for instance is, in my hometown of Nashville, we have a very large bank that is now going to one of the major museums and going to display all the artwork that they've bought over the years. And I was just kind of blown away.
Right.
But they're involved in investments like movies and books and the creative stream. So there's a lot of corporate targets, if you will, that need to be cultivated. And you can do those on an individual basis. I know that in Linda's background, when she was in Ohio and she was involved in the art community there, she had to go out and get sponsorship. And some of that was corporate sponsorship. So we need to be able to mold that in to show you how to build bridges to people that you may not have thought about before.
Right. And when John was talking about that, that was it's interesting because this takes us back to being known like Bob Ross or Thomas Kincaid, a name that's a kind of a household name, and then being a master or popular artist of today and how siloed that is. The person that I was doing this raising for, I was probably the only one in South. No, that's not true. Artists knew who we were. Okay. But I'm talking corporately. Okay. Yeah. Corporately, they did not know him. And I had to justify to them why it would be a good reason for them to back this. So I had to get them to know the artist and his work and the value of his work and who they would be reaching if they did support and sponsor. So I had to give them the why. Why would I? And I had one gentleman at one of the companies, and I'm talking companies like Duke. Okay, I got probably more money from Duke than people had to do this show because I convinced them of this person's value and worth. And you know, another one was a very regional corporation that I met with and talked with. And his comment was, you know, I could sell this to the board if you did something with kids. I said, really? And I said, for how much money? And he told me, you know, 5,000. And I said, we'll have a reflections on a pond. We'll go to Smith Park. We'll paint by the ponds and it'll be for kids. That's how I got the money. I added one more event. So, but he knew what he had to do to get his board behind us to give us that kind of money. So I said, I'll make it easy for you. We'll do it. And, you know, so there is a way that you can approach corporate America and get them involved. And it is doable. I surprised myself doing it, but it is doable. And another point out of there is you have to understand, as an artist, the people that we follow and learn from, and I've been using the word popular artists or master artists of today, it is very siloed. I mean, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina right now, and that's where, you know, we decided to move to. Very big art concept. I'm walking around the River Arts District going, I've never heard of these people, but their art is gorgeous, you know, and it's technically there and it's wonderful. And I go in and I start talking to them and then we start name dropping, and he or she's dropping names I've never heard of before. And I'm dropping names they've never heard of before. And you're like sitting here, that's like little silos, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't, we don't, how do you break through so that you become, I mean, that's the question, is how do you break through so that you become that household name that everybody knows? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that's what every popular artist wants to have, is everybody knows their artwork. We all want people to know our artwork. We don't want to be in little silos.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be in a little silo. Let's put it that way.
I think too, something to point out is that a lot of people think, well, why, gosh, these guys don't want to give us money. When, as a matter of fact, they do. They actually budget for these things, and knowing when they discuss things for the next year's budget is very important to you as an artist. Almost every business, both large and small, now adopts a policy of corporate social responsibility. It's called CSR. And what they do is they look for avenues and places to put money that will give them build their brand, if you will, within the community. So they're out there waiting for somebody to come in. The fact that they go to the board is just to solidify that what they're doing is in keeping with their corporate social responsibility. So there's no need to be afraid of doing that. You need to be outgoing like Linda and just approach it head on and learn as you go. It's just like building or painting your first painting. You have to put a brush somewhere. So
and
I just add that in because
yes.
This goes back to our building bridges. Yes, you want to build bridges to nonprofit organizations where you can make donations to them. You want to build bridges to corporations. And more importantly, as we've discussed, you want to build bridges between artists and people that curate art. So keep that in mind. There's something out there for everybody.
Yeah, we really haven't talked about curators in there, but they're an important part of the equation as well. And yeah, so maybe that's for another whole our chat on that. So just one thing I want to say, we've been talking for over an hour, and I want to make sure that we hit everything that you wanted to hit, John, but I wanted to make just one more comment, and it has to do with collectors and curators. I mean, you can throw them in the same, they're out there, they're looking, they want people to, they want to be aha'd, okay, at your work. And, it's just a matter of, I know, as I'm saying this, some of our listeners out there are saying, yeah, but how do I get to them? How do I find them? So we talked about why we're doing it. We'll come back on probably and talk the how more in depth in, maybe in December timeframe before we do our hard launch or something. We'll do something then. But just know that they're out there, and we're gonna, our whole purpose, our why of being around is to make things happen, and for artists and for collectors and for corporate America, and try to bring us all together and start really pushing art. I mean, there's a whole side of this that we didn't talk about either, as art educators, and their purpose in life and how they would like to be involved in this. So if you're an art teacher and you're listening to this, please contact us, because we want to hear from you and what you need to help your students and to help you. And what are we missing there? Okay, because that's a whole area. If you're a curator and you're listening to this, what are we missing? Get in touch with us. I don't, if you're a collector and you want to know more, get in touch with us. So I don't know how many times we can say that, but probably not enough. Is there anything you want to add, John? We pretty much hit all the questions that I sent you in a totally different way than what we responded to over the last few days. So I want to make sure that if there's anything that I missed, that you add in here.
I'd just like to add that you're going to find, if you'll review this situation that we put forward to you, you're going to come up with your own aha moment. And that's something that we express, is use that creative mind to think about things that you need, that you want, that you'd like to see. And again, focus on that why, because that's extremely important. So that's all I have to add. I'm going to get off of here and have another aha moment. So
Good for John. So I'll probably end up painting, which is good for me, and I'll have aha moments there too. So,
yeah,
but again, we would love to hear from you. Please let me know that you're out there and listening, because I do know how many people download Art Chat, and I do know that I haven't really heard from you guys very much. And going forward, we want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. John wants to hear from you. Our board wants to hear from you. So to do that, you just go out to Artistic Harmonies, and it's ASSOC.com. So it's not the full association word. So Artistic Harmonies, ASOC, as John calls it, .com. If you Google Artistic Harmonies Association, Google will find it. I'm sure any search. We've been visited by the search bots so a number of times, and I noticed that our soft launch is going very well. We're getting visits to our website every day, basically from our blog, to our blog posts to see. So there are 4 or 5 blog posts out there that you can catch up on, both on the business side and on the art side. So Artistic Harmonies Association.com, and go to the contact page. You'll see the menu up in the corner. If you're on YouTube, I will post a screenshot of that and circle where the menu is. And then you can go to the contact page and contact us. If that doesn't work, Linda Fisler, lfisler@lindafisler.com. That's my private email address, lfisler@lindafisler.com. And if you send them to me and it's a business question, I will forward it to John. So I don't know if you want to give them an email address, John. There is one on the Artistic Harmonies, but we really would prefer that you go through the contact us page, because then John and I can read them from the website at the same time. So anything else we need to talk about? I don't think so.
No.
I think we got this nailed. So again, any questions, get in touch with us. Thanks for listening, and we hope to hear from you guys.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Art Chat is made possible by the support of the Artistic Harmonies Association. Create your next aha experience with us.